Hi everyone, it's Cindy and welcome to Flip Through Friday, hosted by Christina's Shack. This is my opportunity to both film the flip through of the journal that I've been working on. This is a concept that I've been working on for quite some time about tree people, and it was one of the 12 days of concept art that I gave away on my Patreon this year, and this was from our day 3, this kit about tree people. So yeah, you can find linked below information on Christina's Shack, who is hosting this challenge, and if you're seeing this journal, that means that it is now in my Etsy shop. So let's jump into it. Okay, so this is a 5 signature journal, but it is quite large. It has a 2.5-inch spine. This cover art, as I mentioned, you're going to see lots of art in this kind of style throughout. That's all from my kit. I will kind of go through as I'm going to just sort of let you know when I've hit upon one of those pieces. So I've stitched and mounted and added it to the front, and there are leaves underneath. This is a vintage textbook on tree entomology, which was pretty fitting for this whole journal. I've added a bronze label here with this fun little piece of paper, so you can write there whatever you'd like. On the spine is some of my botanically printed cotton fabric, and then stitched on top is some hand-dyed wool from a local farm. And then this is the back of the journal. So you'll see there are olive green eyelets here that hold on to the tie, which is more of my botanically printed fabric, the cotton. So you just untie this here. It's been slip knotted, so it's like a double tie. I probably need to pull some of the strings away still. I like to leave them on there because they're just fun, and you know, they add that element of like a bit of a rattiness feeling that I love. So okay, so we hop in here, and these are all pieces of my art kit. This, and this. So here we have this large pocket of these little tree people here, and behind we have some beautiful paper from 49 and Market, and inside is a handmade piece of paper that I've just flipped, and I have stitched one of my fabric tabs with one of my handmade hand-spun art yarn beads too on a bulb pin. So that just goes in there for a little bonus writing space. So then this says Mystical Creatures, and it's a little clustery pocket on some really beautiful vintage book paper with leaves and acorns. This is one of my art pieces of a couple of our tree people here, and I've done some fun stitching around and a bit of collage. The back side is all painty with greens and some blues. And in here, this is another piece of my art, and this says Emery and Chestnut Oaks. It's from the other side of that book page. And then you'll see throughout this book a few pages that look like this, with this really beautiful illustration. This is from a Japanese children's book that has really incredible illustrations. This is some of my hand-dyed green log paper, and that just tucks in. And that's a book fly page, a little cluster that I've made here with some bees. And this is another piece of my art, and it's a little flip out. And I've done some gilding here. This is cabbage and coffee dyed papers. This is some of the 49 and Market botany collection. This side I've made this really gilded up belly band with my art, and it says a shining moonbow lights the sky. And then I made this mixed media journal card on photo paper. It says Dancing Around Among the Trees, and it has one of my little people here with all these leaves, and it's got some really fun colors and stuff from alcohol inks and distress oxides. Then this page is actually from that illustration book, the Japanese children's illustration book. Some of my hand-dyed paper. This is from a vintage tree field guide. This is a little collaged pocket here with a squirrel and some mushrooms on some coffee-dyed paper. More of my art with some fun book spines stitched up there. And this is from a tree field guide. coffee dyed paper, some sprayed paper with some leaves stitched on. This is the center of the first signature, and this is more of my concept art. A little tree stamp, more of the tree field guide, coffee dyed paper, more of the vintage tree field guide rather. More of my green dyed paper and that Japanese children's book, and it tips out again. This is a playing card, and inside this is 49 market paper, and then this is a journal card that has a tree painted on it, and this little nest down here with a bird that says going out into the world, and it's a flip down for more journal space, and on the back it says a very fine nest. More 49 in market paper and some cabbage dyed paper. This is a little bird pocket here, and one of my little tree people in here. It's from a yet unreleased paper doll collection that I'm working on of little leafy people. This is some of my dyed log paper. This is a little tuck spot that says, nature has so many wonderful ways. You feel it in the whisper of the wind and even in the fresh sparkling dew. And it has one of my little tree people. It's on a vintage tree page from a book. And then in here we have a little journal card with some grass and a cricket. And another of those vintage pages. This is a collaged pocket with a bit of the wool here, and one of my little tree people, and it's on 49 in market paper. And this is from a vintage book about flowers and different kinds of plants. It's a big tabbed journal card. More 49 market paper and some of my dyed log paper. This little pocket and the tag are both from my collection on this vintage tree book page, and this has some fun, this is actually plant tape that I've stitched on, and some of my fabric that I've made this week. And this is Kind Heart, House Full of Acorns, Long Travels, and that's some of my concept art on that tag. This page is another of my little leaf paper dolls, and some leaves up here, cabbage dyed paper. This is from a vintage book. This tuck spot is some of my concept art with some of my hand dyed fabric here, and inside we have just a little piece of stationery with this little mouse from this mouse skin book, and a frog on the back with a little bit of text from the book, which is quite lovely. And you can also see a little Mother Goose verse under there when you lift up the fabric. This is a watercolor stationery, or not watercolor, water lily stationery page. This little frog pocket. This is a journal tag with one of my leaf people. This says leaves from a family journal. This is from one of my Patreon journal together kits, and I've done some mixed media and collage in the background, stitched on these leaves, added some wool and hand-dyed fabric, and the back has also been treated with mixed media techniques. This is some of my concept art. This says a lot of time dancing among the flowers, my little leaf people. This is one of my eco-printed papers where you can see the flowers and leaves. Coffee dyed paper with some leaves stitched on. Just a collage page. The center of the signature for my tree people. More leaves and the botanically dyed paper. Another of the tree people. He's got a little mossy hat there. And then this is a little cluster with a damselfly. More of the water lily paper. This pocket of one of my tree people. And this is from a little French comic book called Arthur. And it's about kind of like this little kind of fairy, elfy kind of person. And I loved the leaves on this, so I just made a little writing booklet. And it goes on in here. This is from a vintage book. This is cabbage dyed paper. Vintage book about elm trees. This little pocket with some of my leafy people here. And then this is just a little, these are ATCs, but I kept them together just for some extra writing space. And some more of my log paper that I've dyed. I've added one of my little leaf people and the little characters down here. And this is a large journal card from a vintage book that just tucks in the side there. More 49 market paper. And then this is a journal card from my kit. I've added some yarn and threads up here, and I've added a little stamp back here that I've made and just had a lot of fun with the back side of the page. This is from a vintage tree book, and that just clips on there with a rusty paper clip. This side is a pocket made from the Japanese children's book. This says Balsam, Fraser, and Allied Silver Firs. And a little mixed media card that I've made with my leaf people. And that just tucks on in this pocket here. And then this paper over here is some handmade paper from a local artist that I got at a printing fair. And it's just beautiful blues and greens and yellows. Lots of fun. This little pocket and this journal card are my tree people. And this book quote says, "And as the evening twilight fades away, the sky is filled with stars invisible by day." And it's stitched to a vintage tree field guidebook. This side we have some mixed media and leaves, and one of my hand-dyed logbook pages. This is from a vintage How to Draw Trees book, and I just love the details of both of the ink and the writing materials, as well as the trees and also the text. I just left the page alone because it's just beautiful. This side I have both a pocket and this journal card from my tree people, and this says "A great pile of fallen trees blown over." This is some plant tape here, and then on the journal card we have this little mossy guy and some hand spun yarn and some paper bag that I've stitched up here. Some of my hand dyed paper. This is from an art book about plants and trees. Some ledger paper that I've avocado dyed. This is from a vintage tree field guide. Cabbage dyed paper. Little cluster pocket here with some spraying. This is from a children's book, and it's a journal card. It says, "A great big wind had blown over lots of trees in such a way that they had fallen on each other, making a great pile. This had gradually settled until it was a tangled heap of brush." And then more of my tree people at the center of the signature. A little cluster here with a squirrel and some nuts or acorn. More of the tree field guide and avocado dyed ledger. The other side of that art book about trees. More dyed paper and that beautiful vintage How to Draw Trees book. More of my dyed log paper, and this is a tip out. It says, "A tree all twisted by the wind, wonder." And this is some of my tree people. And a little stamp that I made that has milkweed sealed down on it. This is some vintage book, textbook about trees, and I've stitched a leaf up there. This is one of my little leaf people on some fun mixed media paper that I made. This is some handmade paper from the Howard printing fair. This is one of my tree people, a little side tuck pocket on some vintage tree paper. And this is from Inked Paper Art on Etsy. More of the vintage tree paper, and another tip out. This one has a little chipmunk here. And then more of my tree people. Little pocket with one of my tree people and the tag as well. And I've stitched some of that fabric up top, and this is 49 market paper. More dyed log page. This is a vintage book page, Images of Elms. So this book's all about elms, and I wanted to leave it here because there's some really nice verses and stories about elm trees, and kind of like how they, like different information about their history. This is one of my tree people, a large journal card. It says "The Old Stump," and I've added some of my hand spun yarn at the bottom. one of my little leaf paper dolls and cabbage dyed paper. And this is one of my tree people here, and more of that fun scrappy fabric up top as a tab. Coffee dyed paper, some of the vintage tree field guide, some green dyed paper with a bit of my eco printed paper and this little flower. Another page from the Japanese children's book. Cabbage dyed paper. This is a tip out with this owl and this moth. And over here it says, there are many things that can fool a mouse in the forest. There are moths that look like owls and birds that look like mice, and a misty night in springtime can make them all seem real. And then we have some little bees here on this tuck. This is vintage wrapping paper. And then one of my tree people with a bit of thread collage up top. The growth rings, one for each year of the tree's life. That's on some tea-dyed paper. This is from a plant book on the Allegheny serviceberry and the paper birch. This little owl tuck up here that holds on to this little piece of stationery from a children's book. Mice. And the page has been sprayed. More of my tree people. This little pocket with a mouse and a moth. And in here we have one of my little leaf people, the paper dolls. And then this is a vintage playing card that's just really beautiful, that has some lovely pine images on it. This is from a book as well. Eastern Redbud and American Beech. A little stamp that I made with leaves on it on tea-dyed paper. More of the vintage wrapping paper with this little pocket that I made. There's a little pine tree back there, and this is just a fun tattered piece of Tim Holtz paper to write on. Leap for the nearest tree, and we have a couple little mice here. This is on cabbage dyed paper. This is from the Japanese children's book. More of my green dyed paper. More of the tree field guide, coffee dyed paper, one of my tree people pockets, and this little weaselly guy here, a little piece of stationery to write on, some cabbage dyed paper, little blue flower on some eco printed paper, and this is another page from the Elms book, the Elms in Landscape Painting, and I kept the page whole so that you can read it. Green dyed logbook, 49 in market paper. This little clustery pocket is my tree people again, and some old text here, handwritten. This is on an old tree field guide book. This is from the children's illustration book. We have two pockets here made from vintage botanical books, and inside this one is one of my little leaf people. It's a journal card with a bit of old book spine added there for some fun texture, and it just tucks on in this pocket. And then up here we have another little journal card with this little mouse talking to a little bee. That's from a children's book. This is some of my eco printed paper. It's also rust dyed. You can see the screw and the iron cog there. This is a tuck spot. It says busy little folk on some old waxed book spine. It's one of my tree people. And then this little mouse and turtle, a little mouse back here from a children's book, just a little piece of stationery that you can write on. Vintage tree field guide. This is just a little piece of green dyed paper that I stamped out these plant shapes on, and it is on some cabbage dyed paper. This is more of the vintage How to Draw Trees book pages. A little cluster here with catkins and some eco printed paper on green dyed paper. This is from a tree art book, and it says, then as if by magic the night was filled with sound, clicks and whistles, hoots and howls echoed back and forth in the forest. and a little pocket with the turtle here, some leaves stitched down the side. And then in here we have a floating pocket that says "Song for a Summer Evening." Fireflies in the twilight, the fairies might be there, each with a little winking star showing in her hair. And the trees are still, and one leaf alone is blowing. Perhaps a pixie flew from it, going where he was going. From Mildred Bower Armstrong. And then this little collage tag inside. And so that just pops inside this little pocket here. And then that goes in this pocket. And some more avocado dyed ledger with a little stamp that I made from a tree book. Vintage tree field guide. Tea-dyed paper. A little, this is from a book cover. It's a little tuck spot for this little mouse and frog stationery from a children's book page. More of my tree people. And then this is one of my little clusters here with some vintage plant bits and bobs. Tea-dyed paper, tree field guide. This is avocado dyed ledger paper. This is a large journal card that I made. It says, "I went to the woods because I wish to live deliberately, to confront only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not when I had come to die discover that I had not lived." Henry David Thoreau. I feel like I could read that quote just from my brain because I love it so much. Walden's a wonderful book. Read it. This is also from the tree art book. This is some hand-dyed paper. This is from the vintage How to Draw Trees book. Look at all that calligraphy. And I love how it says right here, tree font. And some cabbage dyed paper. This is Tim Holtz paper that I used as a wrap-around pocket on both sides of the page. On this side I made this tag with one of my little leaf paper dolls. And that tucks in here. On this side I added a couple things. One is from the tree field guide, so it's got the black oak group of leaves and the acorns, and inside the white oak and the California live oak. And then this is just a scrap of beautiful 49 market paper for you to write on. It has little moths on the inside, and they just tuck together on in here. Some eco-printed paper. This little tuck spot with one of my tree people on some vintage tree field guide. And then this is a little postcard that came from the back of a magazine called Fleur from the Netherlands, I believe. And then the back page is just this beautiful vintage tree field guide. The same paper here again, and I just added my little Studioloo wax seal down there. So that is the tree people, and I hope you enjoyed this flip through. And as I mentioned, you can find information on where to find this journal in my shop on Etsy, as well as if you're interested in these images, they are on my Patreon, which is also linked below. And this is for Friday Flip Through, or Flip Through Friday, hosted by Christina's Shack. So I will have all that info linked down below. If you haven't yet subscribed, I would love it if you did. And also I hope you have very happy holidays. We're getting so close. So have a great day, and bye for now.